Hi everyone, it's Jane and Shadia here. We're
Hi.
calling in live from Singapore. At the moment it's 7:11 p.m. for us. And we wanted to talk today about why Autistic Pride is important and celebrating the fact that today is Autistic Pride Day, June 18th. And a bit why it's important for young people in particular on the autism spectrum to feel empowered and feel proud of their autistic identity. And in particular, I think it really sends a message of embracing our neurology, which I think is really important. The feeling that we are different, not less, that we have an important role to play in society, that we're not burdens on people, and that we're not defective or broken, which is something that I'm sad to say a lot of people tend to experience these thoughts. But it's not true, and we've been around for many centuries. There's actually been a recent study showing that they think the prehistoric art's linked to people on the spectrum with our unique attention to detail and things. So it's obvious that there are unique niches that we can fill as part of being neurodiverse. And I thought I'd bring my mother Jane on to speak as well to give her own parent perspective as well as the teacher perspective, because you deal a lot with students on the autism spectrum,
hmm
and I think you see a wide variety of cases. And why is it important to you that your students feel proud of their autistic identity?
Well, I think that it makes them feel that they belong, that they have a role to feel that they. I think it gives them a sense of connectedness
Mm.
to realise that because often they're aware that they're not like other students, that they find things more difficult than other students may find, for example, social aspects or just coping with, well, sensory issues and so on. And to hear people like you and others speaking about their experiences, it makes them feel that they belong,
Mm.
that there are other people like them out there, and those people are successful,
Mm.
and therefore so can they be successful. And I think it encourages them to start to look to play to their strengths and realise that it's okay to be a little bit left of centre. It's okay to
Yeah.
be a bit different.
It would be a very boring world if the world was we were all
Well, I
the
think it would.
same.
I always say I think it would be beige. It would
Yeah.
be just a beige world.
And I
So,
think normal's relative because, to be quite honest, I find neurotypical people very weird. I mean, for me, being autistic is normal. So, um, being able to be in a space surrounded by what you were talking about, surrounded by like-minded people, having people where we can feel like we belong to a tribe is so important, because then we're no longer in the minority, really. So yeah, it's really great to hear that, and yeah.
I think the most important thing though is encouraging everyone to be the best that they can be, to be their authentic self,
Mm, mm,
and to look for what it is that they do well. And I like to say to my students, sure, there are things that you can't manage as well as some of your peers,
mm,
but what is it that you're passionate about? What is
mm.
it that you're good at? How about you look at developing down those sort of folky, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, because the power of looking at our strengths means that rather than looking at it from a deficits based approach where our negative aspects of ourselves are focused, we're able to see where we can fit into in society, and the fact that even though we may have unique issues, we also have unique strengths, like our ability to focus, maybe, or our intense passions and interests for things we love that can eventually turn into career pathways that means that we excel at what we do. Yes, of course, for anyone there will be challenges in life. Just because we have different challenges also means we can have different strengths. And it's really great that there are teachers like you out there to see this potential in your students. And I see this with my mentees all the time. And it's very hard for them sometimes, and they get caught in this negative talk, like I can't do this, I'm bad at this, I'm bad at that. And then it's important to refocus and shift that thinking into saying, well, what can you do? I can see that you have these strengths, and you're different in this way, in a good way. And I've seen such a change in some of my mentees over time when they've been able to see the positive side of themselves and be able to allow themselves to accept themselves for who they are, even if they do have unique struggles. I also think it's important to recognize that pride is different for everyone, and we're all on a different journey. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're all out and about going, hey, look at me, I'm proud. It's more, I think, an individual thing.
Well, you can be proud within yourself.
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to go and announce it. I have to say that since you were little and I started my rather obsessive reading about autism,
you got
and
very focused on that.
everything that I could put my hands on, that I have seen quite a shift in the sense that now you've even got organisations like, well, started with organisations I believe like Specialist STEM, but now with DXC and some of these organisations selecting specifically for people who are on the autism spectrum due to their particular strengths and their particular way of thinking. So these are, I think these are positives, and I think
and having
it's good
more
to raise awareness, not only about autism but about all kinds of difference, and embrace it, because it's all part of. It's not just an autism spectrum; it's the whole spectrum of the community, all the the different talents and contributions that people can make. So
especially in fields like entrepreneurship, innovation, technology, the creative arts, you see a lot of neurodiverse people, and they may have a combination of autism and other things. I know that a lot of successful people in the world have been neurodiverse, and that's a really great thing that we're, as a society, starting to talk about this more openly, because it destigmatizes it, which is so important. It means that it's less of a bad thing and more recognizing that it's been here all along. And how do we cater for neurodivergent individuals in a world that's rapidly changing? And I think that's why it is important to have discussions about it, because our world is changing, and being open about why you're proud of being neurodivergent and why you're proud of being who you are means that we can educate the community on why it's important to learn about these things and learn about neurodiverse people. That's just my opinion, but I think, we're leading into a time where we will need innovation. We will need big focuses, people that are willing to research, people that are willing to hone in on their passions. It's what we're being now told, that we will have to be innovative in our approaches to jobs, all that sort of thing. So if we're given the platform to do that, who knows what will happen? So hopefully something very exciting.
Yes, I think it's, as I said earlier, I think it's very important to be your authentic self and to develop the talents and passions that you have, regardless of who you are. But I do think, I know in your case, having older mentors who could say, oh yes, that happened for me too, but then for you to see them as having carved out a pathway and being able to hold down a job and those sorts of things gave you a sense of future, so and a connectedness. So I think it's great that people like you and the rest of the community are having a voice, and it surely helps people like me, because I know that as a parent, as I said, I just read as many, particularly autobiographies when you were very little, because I couldn't ask you about why you were doing things. So I am so grateful for all those autobiographies, and because I think that was my window into you. So.
I think that's why too it's really great that there are autistic-led organisations like the ICANN Network and Yellow Ladybugs, that allow the voices of autistic adults to be heard, because even as a teenager going into a very confusing part of my life, it was great to be able to talk to autistic adults who'd already been there before, rather than having to start from scratch and learn something in an area that was uncharted territory for me. And I think that's why Autistic Mentors are so powerful, because we can talk to them and they know exactly what we're talking about. Even if we're very different people, there are parallels often to our experiences, and it does make us feel connected. And it's really helped me a lot, being that feeling of connection. And it's a wonderful feeling now to know that I'm giving back. And even with you and your teaching, if you'd like to say that, with your students, when they're feeling empowered about themselves, you see such a change in them.
Yes, I think it's really important. And I know that it's not always easy for them, and I try to encourage them, or try to reinforce the idea that things won't necessarily happen at the same speed as for others. Try to encourage a growth mindset. But I do think that feeling connected and